Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today we are going on a really fascinating journey deep inside our own bodies, deep inside our arteries, to understand a silent process that affects millions of us and is behind some of the biggest health crises we face.
So think about this question for a second. What's the one thing that's silently, secretly the cause of most heart attacks and strokes? It's a huge question because the process we're talking about, well, it often has zero symptoms right up until the moment everything goes wrong. And that process is atherosclerosis. Okay, I know that's a lot of sciencey words, right? Let's totally break that down. Chronic inflammatory just means it's a long-term, low-grade irritation happening inside your artery walls. Fibrolipid means it's made of both fibers and fats, and all of that messy business leads to these things called atheromatous plaques, which is really just a fancy way of saying fatty, hard buildups that clog up our arteries. So, what's actually in one of these plaques? Well, you can think of it like a really nasty recipe. The main ingredient, of course, is lipids, fats, especially that bad LDL cholesterol. Then you've got inflammatory cells. These are the body's first responders, the cleanup crew, but they get totally overwhelmed. And finally, you have smooth muscle cells and connective tissue, which the body kind of uses to try and wall off the mess, but in doing so, they just add more bulk and make the whole thing harder. To really get this, we're not just going to list facts. We're going to follow the life story of a single plaque from its very first moment of creation all the way to its potentially devastating end. Our story really unfolds in four main acts. It all kicks off with a tiny injury. That leads to a buildup of fat. Then, that buildup hardens into a plaque, narrowing the artery. And finally, the most dangerous part, the rupture. Let's dive into Act 1. Okay, so imagine the inside of your arteries. They're supposed to be lined with this super smooth, almost Teflon-like surface. It's called the endothelium, and it's like perfect armor. But things like high blood pressure or toxins from smoking, they can cause these tiny little injuries, these little cracks in that armor. And that, right there, that is the critical first step. And the second that armor has a crack in it, boom, it's like an open invitation. That bad cholesterol, LDL, that's normally just flowing by, now it can seep through those cracks and get stuck inside the artery wall, a place it absolutely should not be. This is the invasion. So the body's immune system freaks out a little. It sees this trapped cholesterol and thinks, whoa, invader. So it sends in the cleanup crew, these inflammatory cells. They start gobbling up all the cholesterol they can find, but there's just too much. They get so bloated with fat that under a microscope they actually look all puffy and foamy. And these foam cells are the very first building blocks of a plaque. And when you get a big pileup of these bloated foam cells all in one spot, they form something called a fatty streak. It's literally the earliest stage of a plaque that you can actually see. It's still pretty soft at this point, but the foundation for all the future trouble has just been laid. But, this soft, fatty streak, it doesn't stay that way for long. As the body keeps trying to deal with this, the plaque starts to mature, to harden, and this is where things start to get a lot more serious. So the body tries to do the right thing, right? It thinks, okay, I need to contain this mess. And it starts building this tough, fibrous cap over the top of the fatty core, using things like collagen. It's basically trying to build a scar over the area to wall it off. But here's the catch. That healing cap, it actually makes the whole plaque bigger and harder. And as that plaque grows, it starts to bulge into the artery, which physically narrows the path for blood to get through. It's like a 4-lane highway suddenly getting squeezed down to a single, tiny lane. Okay, this slide right here, it puts the entire story together perfectly. Let's just quickly walk through it. Stage 1, that injury makes the artery wall permeable. Stage 2, fats get in, leading to those foam cells. Stage 3, all that inflammation creates the fatty streak. Stage 4, the body builds that fibrous plaque, which causes the artery to narrow. And all of this, every single step, leads us to the final and, honestly, the most critical stage. So you might think the narrowing is the worst part, right? But it's not. The real moment of truth, the climax of this whole story, is when that mature plaque becomes unstable and hits its breaking point. Think about it. All that inflammation just simmering away under that cap, it starts to weaken it from the inside out. And eventually, it can crack open or rupture, spilling that whole gooey, fatty, inflammatory core right out into the bloodstream. And this is where things get truly, tragically ironic. The body sees this rupture, and it does exactly what it's supposed to do. It rushes to form a blood clot to plug the hole. If this was a cut on your skin, that's a great thing. But inside an already tight artery, that helpful clot is the very thing that can block it off completely. And that sudden, complete blockage, that's what we call acute ischemia. Basically, the tissue downstream is instantly starved of oxygen. And the result? Well, if this whole process unfolds in an artery feeding your heart, it's a heart attack. If it's in an artery going to your brain, it's a stroke. The silent damage we've been following for this whole journey now has a very loud, very real consequence. So we've just followed this whole journey, from a tiny, microscopic injury all the way to a potentially life-threatening event. A process that can build for decades without a single symptom. It really makes you think, right? Knowing how this story goes, what can we do to maybe write a different ending?